G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Charles Reed from Get Payroll. He's based just around Dallas in Texas, United States. Thanks for your time today, Charles.
My pleasure, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with how we know each other. So, Anosh, your marketing manager on your team, reached out, thought you might be a good guest for our audience.
Exactly.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
We provide payroll services for small and medium-sized businesses across the United States. We do payroll. We pay our clients' employees, handle all the tax filings, all the deposits, all the checks, direct deposits, as well as provide timekeeping, benefit work, HR, and other payroll-associated things. Our biggest unique selling proposition is compliance. I'm a employment tax expert. I'm a U.S. tax court practitioner. I'm a CPA, chartered accountant, and we bring a level of compliance that our competitors just don't bring.
It would be a much needed service too, because payroll is so complex, and I assume, particularly with all the different states in the US, so that would be a great service to offer small businesses.
Right, and every state has their unique aspects and different forms, and there's no uniformity, and it's a nightmare.
And then do you cover all the states, or you just focus on
Yes.
Yeah.
No, we cover all the states and the district.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. How did you start out?
Well, I was in corporate. I was in the military and then in corporate life. And after 15 years in corporate, I realized I was never going to get to where I wanted to run a business because I didn't have the political skills. So Ruth and I decided to start our own business. I left Penny's in a contract dispute, J.C. Penney's, and we hung out my own shingle and started in business.
Great. What year was that, and how old were you when you made the jump?
That was 1991, and I was 42 years old.
Yep. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth over the 31 years now?
31 years, yeah. We've got a dozen employees. We're in 50 states instead of one. Ruth's retired. Well, Ruth passed. She retired a number of years ago and then passed here about 7 years ago. She was older than I was. I married her with 5 kids, which demonstrates insanity. But, we were married for 45 years.
Great.
Yeah. We're well over $1 million and in revenue on an annual basis. And we have, over 1,000 clients.
Yeah, fantastic. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
When Ruth said, "I'm going to go build the house, you handle the business." Okay, I can afford to let you just go build the house, and yeah, okay, that's good. And that was about 1999.
Yep, right. And what does success look like to you?
Well, there's 2 successes. One is internal and one is external. External is having enough money to do what I want. I don't have to buy the airplane. I just have to be able to afford a seat anytime I want. Internally, it's self-satisfaction. It's knowing that I've achieved something. I'm happy with that achievement. I don't need to be as rich as Bill Gates. I just need to be happy and content and enjoy what I do. And that to me is success. I've gotten to the point where I'm not, if we never get any bigger, I'll be okay. I'll be fine. I'm happy with that. We're still growing and I want to continue to grow, but we've gotten to the point where I have a very nice living and financially independent. Don't have to worry about it.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Hire expertise. That was my biggest mistake. I thought I could market. And the business grew and grew, and we were growing. and I was successful. And then I hired a professional marketing person. And it took me about 2 weeks to realize I didn't know crap about marketing.
Yeah.
And if I'd hired that person 20 years earlier, I'd be a hell of a lot richer today.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand that weakness of my own. I understood others, but that one I missed. And that one cost us a lot of money over the years because we missed a lot of things that we should have been doing that a marketing professional uh, would have picked up on right away. So either hire somebody or get a consultant or get a PR person or a publisher or whatever. But unless you're a marketing expert, you're not.
Yeah. And it's such an important part of business, such a big value generator, and not just having an expert in that corner, but someone focusing on it. Because when you're running the show, you've got so many things you've got to look after.
Exactly. And you've got to delegate. The more you can delegate to the proper people, the sooner the better. And when I finally decided to delegate marketing, I realized just how poor I was at it.
How did you fund the business?
Uh, Basically, out of my pocket, I was, we were credit cards and savings and uh, some bank loans for the capital equipment. We started originally as a mobile accounting service, so we had a van, and the banker who financed that is still a friend of mine, and I still work with her
Yeah.
after 30 years. She's the best banker I've ever met.
They're rare as hen's teeth, aren't they?
Yeah, I deal with banks around the country all the time, and I tell my staff, well, no, I won't. I won't talk about bankers because I have to deal with them.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting time to launch a business. 91, that was coming out of or in the middle of a recession most countries around the world.
Well, the worst of it was over by then.
Mm.
So the worst was in the mid 80s, and we were coming out of it, and it was a good time. It was growth and a lot of new businesses. So it worked well for us. We deal with small businesses. We're not interested in the Fortune 5,000 or the Fortune 50,000 companies. 95% of US businesses have less than 50 employees.
Yep.
That's my market.
Yeah.
That's what we go after is the small business.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I like the numbers. I like the people. It's a good combination of people and analytics, and it allows me to exercise my skills on the analytical side, but still deal with a lot of people. So it's fun.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Most stressful point was probably hiring my first non-cost center employee. Up to that point, everybody generated revenue, but we hired a young lady to be receptionist, secretary, general office person, and she would supposedly not generate any revenue. But she was a gem. Um, Once she talked to a client over the phone, next time they said hello, she knew who they were. She brought a level of professionalism to the office that we didn't have. And I truly believe she generated us revenue by being who she was and providing added services and added professionalism to the firm and to our clients. So it was very stressful to hire her. I was very glad to have her. I was very sad to lose her, but she went to take over as the personal assistant to the president of a Fortune 1000 company.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't compete with what they were going to pay her or the prestige that went with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always stressful when you're starting to pile team members on, particularly those that aren't going to be, in theory, generating revenue. So I've certainly been through that a couple of times. Yeah. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I had to learn to work on my business and not in my business. I came out of corporate. I was an expert. I was a CPA, a certified public accountant. I understood taxes. I understood accounting. Uh, I could do the work, that doesn't grow the business. That's a job. It's learning to work on the business and set up policies and procedures and hire people and supervise and encourage and motivate. Those are the things that you don't learn doing the work. You have to learn to work on your business. And that was very, very difficult for me.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Probably the uncertainty. Being an accountant, you're very linear, and marketing and growth is not linear. It is up and down and sideways and back and forth. So the unpredictability of things drives an analytical like me kind of crazy.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
The people,
yeah,
and the growth and the accomplishment. I've got a great staff. I've got a lot of great clients. There's a few, but it's a lot of fun. We don't have a lot of office politics. We got rid of the last one here a couple of years ago that was didn't fit. So we have a great culture and great people, and it makes it fun to come in every day.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Again, working on the business.
Yeah.
That's the real change an entrepreneur has to make, is going from having a job to running a business. It's different.
How far into your journey did that mindset change?
It was about 6 or 7 years. I was ready to fire everybody and move it back into the game room and be a sole entrepreneur. And a friend of mine gave me a book, and it's Michael Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited, and it taught me how to work on my business and literally saved my business.
Yeah, it's my favorite book, and I recommend it to anyone starting out or already going and wanting to grow.
I buy it by the dozen and give it to clients, and it's required reading of every new employee.
Yeah, great idea. Number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Leadership. They need to understand how to hire, supervise, and motivate people, because you can't do it yourself. You have to have staff, and you have to have motivated staff, and you have to learn leadership. I was lucky. I got some leadership training in the military, and some of it, not all of it, applies to business. You can't tell them to go out and get shot at, but
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Sure. We hired a thief. And I had a young lady I wanted to hire. And my secretary at the time, her husband was a local policeman who later became sheriff of the county. And he checked her out, and her boyfriend passed bad checks and had been arrested several times and was under investigation for more. And we still wanted to hire her. And he said, "What are you, an idiot? Here you are dealing with all this money and all these checks, and you're going to hire somebody who lives with a bad check passer? No, you can't do it." So we didn't do it. But yeah. And then culture. If they don't fit the culture, it's not going to work. Now, when we hire somebody, everybody interviews them, and anybody can say no for whatever reason. It's just not worth having a bad apple.
No, totally. Yeah. You don't want to get any assholes on the bus. That just can be toxic. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's the next question. What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Know your culture. Understand what you do. Understand what you want from your people. These are critical aspects. And you've got to learn to be a good boss. I've worked for some real assholes over the years. I had one who would take this whole staff outside about once a year and point out that it was his name on the building. Actually, it was his father's name. He inherited it. And if we didn't like that, we didn't need to come back inside. So that kind of demotivation, he, of course, went bankrupt and,
Got what he deserved.
that's a whole other story. He got what he deserved because he was an asshole. He inherited a business and destroyed it. So you've got to it's people. It's always people. Yeah, you've got to have product. You've got to have service. You've got to be good at what you do. But it's not just you; it's your people.
Yeah, totally agree. I've certainly had bad managers and leaders in the past. Well, the one and only job I've ever had out of uni, but and that I took that into my own businesses. I did not want to have a culture or a business that was run by fear or ego.
Right.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Well, as an entrepreneur, there is no work-life balance. Okay.
Yeah.
When you start out, it's work. I was in business with my wife, so we work together. If you don't work with your spouse and you have a spouse, you need to have one that understands that it's going to be 70, 80, 90, 100 hours a week for an interminable period of time. It was probably 10 years before we were able to cut back from those kind of working hours. And that's just the life of an entrepreneur. And if your spouse can't put up with it, it's going to put real strain on your marriage. Even then, with my wife, we had to come to an agreement because we'd get home from work and we'd have dinner and we'd get ready for bed. We'd get into bed and she'd have one more problem she wanted to discuss. Then she'd roll over and go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I'd be worrying about it until 2 or 3 in the morning trying to get to sleep. So we came to an agreement that after dinner, no more business. Now that meant dinner got to be real late some nights.
Yeah.
But that allowed me to get a night's sleep.
So you basically funded the growth through working capital. You didn't take any investors on, or
no. I didn't want to. I never did. We had the opportunity at one point to talk about venture capital and so on to hyper push the growth. I don't want to do that. I don't want to answer to other people. If you take venture capital, they basically run the business.
Yeah.
At some point. They have control. I went into business to run my own business, not to run somebody else's.
Yeah. And
I don't.
Yeah. And they've got pretty harsh ROI metrics they're after. They want 20% per annum growth. They want to be out in 5 years. So it's a lot of stress on the business and you to deliver on that. So.
And if you don't, you'll find yourself out of your own business.
Yeah. Yep. That's what happened. I had the founder of 1-800-Dentist on, and he went down that path and the business imploded because of that, audacious growth that they couldn't meet and lost the company.
Yep. And I just refused to do it. That's not, money for money's sake is not success to me. And growth for growth's sake is not success. If I'm not happy, then I'm not successful.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Fred Joyle on episode 218, 1-800-Dentist. It was a good lesson to hear. How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Constantly. At 65, I became a U.S. tax court practitioner, which allows me to practice in U.S. tax court, even though I'm not an attorney. There's only a few hundred of us in the country. As a CPA, I was required to have professional development, professional education every year. I believe in it. I'm a lifelong learner. I read trade journals. I read books. I pull down webinars now. Professional development is required to keep on top of an ever-changing environment in the tax world and in any business, as far as I'm concerned.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Not really. I've had a couple of friends who've helped. My friend who gave me the Gerber book, another old family friend who's now passed, who was very helpful in a number of ways, but I haven't sought them out. It's very hard to find people, I think, that can really mentor you. I'm very educated. I'm very well read. I study my business. I study business. It's hard to find people who can really provide. I've belonged to a couple of mastermind groups and never stuck with them because it seems most of it's so trivial.
Yep.
So, no.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, it was just me and the wife.
Yep.
And that's all we ever really needed.
All right, Charles, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Starting it. You've got to have you've got to have the right attitude. You've got to have the right mindset. And if you don't, you're never going to get there.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Absolutely. Hands down.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
No, see, a lot of that came well after I was in business, and it's like I don't use social media personally. We use it in the business. I've got staff that's very well versed in it and understands it. I think Facebook is good for sending pictures of the baby to grandma.
Yeah. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
I'm going to go back and go with Michael Gerber's book. That really teaches you to work on your business. I hate to keep bringing up the same thing, but I think it was critical in my business. Absolutely critical.
Yeah, same for me. A business partner of mine actually gave me that book 5 or 6 years into business, and I'm reading it. It's common sense, but not common practice. It was such a powerful book and really hit me over the head. Yeah, great book. Final and my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day 1 of starting out?
You can make it. It's not insurmountable. And I would tell myself, if I could go back, a quote from Bill Gates before he got crazy about things. A man will overestimate what he can accomplish in a year and underestimate what he can accomplish in a decade.
Yeah, it's a great quote.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yep. Fantastic. Thanks very much for your time today, Charles. Really enjoyed our chat, and I think the audience get a lot of value out of it. Congratulations to you and Ruth and the team, going from 2 team members now to around 12 and helping over 1,000 businesses in America with their payroll.
Thank you, Troy. Pleasure to be here.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.